For the first time in the city of Jacksonville's history, a special investigative committee convened at City Hall to begin an investigation into the failed JEA privatization process. Over the next 4 months, council members and the city's legal team will dive into what happened behind the scenes as JEA senior leadership courted bidders to purchase the utility. On your side's David Jones. He is live at City Hall laying out what was discussed.
Today's meeting was very procedural. It was centered on laying out the groundwork for what's going to be an extensive investigation over a short period of time. Now, union reps were in the council chambers today, making it clear that they feel the JEA employees are not comfortable coming forward with information about this process. Now, this special committee is headed up by Chair Councilman Rory Diamond, along with council members Priestley Jackson and DeFore. Much of this morning's discussions, again, were procedural, dealing with how the committee will handle subpoena powers, along with the scope of what they'll be looking into. That scope itself is broad, going back possibly as far as 2014 and 2015. Here's some key takeaways. The city's Office of General Counsel went through an extensive list of documents that will be requested as part of this process. Those documents include communications from city leaders like Mayor Curry and Brian Hughes about the privatization process, communications around the controversial bonus plan that we've been reporting on, known as PUP. There's also a big discussion about how members of City Council should disclose their own communications regarding JEA. The conclusion there that there should be some type of questionnaire that would deal with all the different points of this investigation. Again, council members just emphasizing this is about transparency, being very open to the public about how this investigation is laid out. The majority of members that were present today seem to all agree that this investigation should end with some type of changes to the charter regarding JEA. Changes that Councilman Boylan really pushed for, saying that as they're working now to replace the members of the JEA board and the CEO, they need these changes in place. This committee is set to present its findings on June 1st. At City Hall, David Jones, First Coast News, on your side.